Tonight's gonna be a fun show. It's been a while since we've done a podcast. Last week was an abject disaster. I'm gonna tell y'all a little bit about that. Feel like I've been hit with the life stick last week and a half or so, man. It's brutal when you get hit over the noodle with the life stick. And I caught a couple of swings over the head. But I'm back like cook crack, ready to chop it up. We missed a lot of stuff over the last week, man. So we're going to try to knock down as much of that tonight as humanly possible. I appreciate y'all coming on late. You know, look, I'm late, but it's still great. You know what it is. 259th installment of the Louie T Network podcast coming at you now. Who else could it be? Okay. I see what we got going on here. Can't hear me. All right. Who else could it be? With me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 259th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. I feel like I've been hit with the life stick over the last week and a half. So life happens. Y'all know that. I don't have to explain that to you. I won't get into explicit details, but let's just say between stuff going on, the twins, lack of sleep, and just trying to figure some things out, man, it's been rough on the kid. I will not lie to you. This podcast was supposed to happen 3 hours ago. This podcast was supposed to happen 2 hours ago. This podcast was supposed to happen an hour ago. I told myself, you're doing a podcast today. This happened to me last week where I had something lined up. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Have something lined up. I'll do it tomorrow. Have something lined up. I can't. I'm too exhausted. Have something lined up. All right. Something else comes up. And so it kept getting pushed back. So I said, you're doing a podcast today, dude. By hook or by crook, you're doing a podcast today. So here we are, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, chopping it up with you guys, talking National Football League and everything under the sun. And we've missed so much. And generally, there's not a lot to talk about in May. You know, drafts already happened. Mini camps have taken place or are about to take place for some teams. Who gives a shit about mini camps, especially the rookie mini camps? Like people, get excited about rookie mini camps. Yeah, it's the first time you'll see your rookies in your team's colors, but they don't have on actual jerseys. They're not really doing anything. They're just getting out there, running around a little bit. It's nothing really to write home about. So no real big takeaways from anything that you glean from a 2-3 day mini camp for rookies. It's crazy. So generally, there isn't much to talk about, but that's not the case, man. Guys are getting deals. The schedule was released last week. I really wanted to talk about, hell, I still want to talk about the draft. I had this whole spread last week of, I was going to break down the AFC side of the bracket. I was going to break down the NFC and rank all the drafts. I may still do that because I did all the work. So, I want to talk about it, but I never got a chance to. So I'm sitting here with all this content, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? And the thing about sports content in particular, if you're in the entertainment industry, if you're in tech, if you're in beauty and wellness, that shit doesn't expire. Okay, there's no expiration date on your content. If I put out a review of a Samsung phone, the newest phone, that shit's gonna be the newest phone for the next 4, 5, 6 months until the fall. Okay, spring phone comes out. They're not coming out with another new phone until the spring or the fall, excuse me. So I got time to put that content out. And even if I do put it out after another new phone comes out, somebody's still going to go to the store and want to know about that particular phone, and they're going to look it up and boop, video is going to pop up. Like that stuff never goes out of style. Wellness and beauty, tech reviews, all that stuff is always relevant. 6 years from now, some little kid who's getting his first phone is going to want to see what this phone is all about. And boom, that video will still be up there 6 years later. Anything in the sports world, it's now. I got to have it now, because if you wait, that shit will have an expiration date. It will expire and it will spoil rotten, and nobody gives a shit. You don't talk about game 7 of Suns Mavericks when we're on game 3 of Mavericks and Warriors. Nobody cares about that series anymore. We're on to the next series. So there's this time frame where you got to get this stuff out. So kind of feel like nobody wants to talk about the draft anymore. Like it's kind of old hat now. Like, but I'm like, so one of my rules in life is that if I type up a text message, I'm going to send it. Okay. That's a lot of work, especially if this text message is more than 2 lines long. Oh, I'm sending that sumbitch. So I could be in the middle of a text message and I'm sending out a list of things that I need to get done. And then my wife calls me right in the middle of that text. So right as I'm getting towards the end of that text message, she calls me. And everything that I was going to say on that, that I needed to be said in the text message, I'm going to have that conversation, which is why I hate text messaging. I'd rather just pick up the phone and call you. But now that she's called, I might as well tell her everything that I had to say. But guess what? As soon as we hang up the phone, I'm going to complete that text message and I'm going to send it. And she's like, why did you just send me this? We just talked about this on the phone. No. I already typed all of that stuff. You were going to get it anyway. And so she knows that rule now. So if she calls me and I've already typed something up, you're going to get that text message anyway. So it's kind of like how I feel about the draft. I did all this work. You guys are probably going to get the content anyway. Sorry. All right. Yeah, I get it. It's a little tardy. Deal with it. So anyway, I digress. I want to talk about the schedule tonight with you guys. You've had a chance to digest the schedule, see what it looks like. I want to talk specifically about the primetime schedule. But before I do that, there was something that happened that I really wanted to talk about that has elapsed by like a week now, because again, didn't have any podcast last week because got hit with the life stick. And so I want to talk about the 5th-year option. Every year teams have an opportunity to pick up the 5th-year option on some players that were drafted. And you can either pick up the 5th-year option or you can pass on picking up the 5th-year option on that particular player. And it's only with first-round picks, obviously. So what it essentially means when you decline to pick up the 5th-year option on a player is we made a mistake. And it's hard to admit you made a mistake in the NFL, especially on a first-round pick. Those get you fired. You miss enough of those and you got to go. And let's take a look. So let's get to the gem dropping session, shall we? Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, LouieTeeNetwork. Let me open you up, get you thinking a little bit. So I want to take a look at the players that didn't have their 5th-year options picked up. This is from the 2019 NFL draft class. So, for instance, the Washington Commanders had to decide whether to pick up the 5th-year option on edge rusher because they had 2 first-round picks in 2019. That was an awful draft, by the way. And we haven't even really gotten knee deep into, in a period that is elapsed, and we can tell that that's an awful draft in 2019. Again, when you don't have quarterbacks at the top that play, that are worth a damn, all you had was Kyler Murray in that draft. Everybody else, Drew Lock, Daniel Jones, Dwayne Haskins, may he rest in peace. All those guys stunk. So that draft is really not that impressive. But that said, Washington had 2 first-round picks. Dwayne Haskins was one. The other was Montez Sweat. They had to make a decision on Montez Sweat. Do we pick up the 5th-year option, which gives us an extra year? And generally, first-round picks get paid good money. The further back the pick is, the less money you're on the hook for in that 5th year. The higher the pick, the more money, which is why a team like the New York Giants, who really aren't sure about Daniel Jones, isn't willing to pick up his fifth-year option. Why? Because it's a pretty lofty number for a guy that has underperformed throughout his career. So instead of saying, like, for instance, the Panthers picked up the fifth-year option on Sam Darnold. Why? Because if he was good that first year in Carolina, they wanted to have the opportunity to see it again just to make sure, similar to the Baker Mayfield effect in Cleveland, where he was really good in his rookie season. He was subpar in his second year. He was really good, won a playoff game. In his third year, you're like, hey, they should pay Baker Mayfield. And then he was awful in his fourth season. So you're like, maybe I should see it again before I go ahead and marry myself to this quarterback. And so you want to be sure that you're getting it right. Let's take a look at this list of guys that, for all intents and purposes, did not have their fifth-year option picked up by their respective teams. So the first thing that jumps out, so as you're taking a look at this list, and we'll go over it, the first thing that jumps out at you, is that all three of the Raiders' first-round picks from 2019 are on this list. Now, that's part of the reason why Michael Mayock is no longer employed as the Raiders GM. That's part of the equation. Now, again, keep two things in mind. One, if John Gruden had never resigned and didn't have things come out about him that forced him to resign, there's a huge possibility and in all likelihood, strong possibility that John Gruden doesn't get rid of Mike Mayock, and so he's still there. And then maybe one or two of those guys that they drafted in that 2019 draft class in the first round may have their fifth-year options picked up. All right, so you have to acknowledge that. You have to acknowledge that there's a new GM in Vegas. Thus, he's looking to clean house on guys that he did not draft. If they're not blue chip players, then they're expendable because I want to build the roster the way I want to build the roster. So those are things to keep in mind. However, you look at this list, there's only one guy up here that really jumps off the screen at me. That one guy is Josh Jacobs. Now, we'll go through this entire list quickly, but I just want to say that was the one guy that I was shocked when I saw the list, but then I'm not shocked. And I'll talk about it when we get to him. So let's go through this list. So the number 4 overall pick in the 2019 NFL draft was Clelin Ferrell, which was a disastrous pick for the Raiders. Remember Mike Mayock telling everybody a day before the draft, I think it might have been 2 days even before the draft, that they were going to shock some people with their, 4th pick overall. And so that made me change my mock draft to a quarterback. Like, what could be as shocking as taking a quarterback number, 4 overall to potentially replace Derek Carr? Because remember, every year for the last 7 years, the Raiders have been replacing Derek Carr. So, of course, I changed my mock draft pick and they take Clelin Ferrell, and everyone, including myself, was like, what are you doing? Like, Clelin Ferrell, we didn't know he was going to stink as bad as he did, but we knew he was limited as an edge rusher, and there was no way he was going to be able to live up to the hype of the 4th overall pick. It was a bad selection, and we get it. They were trying to change the culture in Vegas. That's not the way you do it. You don't change the culture by taking guys that can't help you on the football field, but are great guys in the locker room and excellent leaders, which is what Clelin Ferrell was at Clemson, and they envisioned him being for the Vegas Raiders. That's excellent that the guy's a great dude and excellent in the locker room and the kind of guy you want your daughter to marry, but can he play football? The answer was no. And so that was a disastrous pick. So clearly they weren't picking up the 5th-year option there. Number 6 overall, Daniel Jones, New York Football Giants, came out of the gates like gangbusters, had a phenomenal come-from-behind victory against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if you look at his numbers in his rookie season, some of it can be misleading. I always talk about numbers and how they can really get you in trouble if you don't know the context behind the numbers. 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Those are great numbers. He's never duplicated that, by the way. He's never even come remotely close to duplicating that touchdown number and output from his rookie season. However, there were a ton of fumbles. There were a ton of mistakes in that rookie season. So some of the touchdown passes were overshadowed by turnovers, the 14 interceptions, and he probably had at least 15 to 20 fumbles in that rookie season. Thus, Daniel Jones has been a disappointment every season thereafter, hasn't been able to stay healthy. taking too long to get through his reads and cut the football loose. The offensive line has been a abject disaster and failure. And so it's really put him in a tough spot, not to mention the guy that was supposed to take pressure off of him and Saquon Barkley hasn't been healthy himself either. And it doesn't help that the Giants have done a putrid job of selecting head coaches over the last 3 years. And that hasn't really added to Daniel Jones' success either. And anytime you have as many coordinators and head coaches and voices in your ear as a quarterback, it really does stunt your growth in this league. So a lot of things were against Daniel Jones in his development in New York. That said, he hasn't been consistent. He hasn't been good enough for the Giants. And of course, you're not going to pick up the fifth-year option on a quarterback that's probably going to be looking at every bit of $20 million on that last year of his deal. It's just not feasible for a team like the Giants, who had to cut James Bradbury because they don't have the cap space as we speak. So, they had to do what they felt like was needed there with Daniel Jones. Number 10 overall, Devin Bush. I was so wrong about him. I remember the two Devins in that draft, if you recall, in 2019. It was Devin Bush and Devin White. Devin White went number 5 overall to Tampa, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Steelers traded all the way up from like 21 to 10 with the Broncos, if I'm not mistaken, to draft Devin Bush. Because remember, they had just had the injury like maybe 2 years prior to the guy that I thought was the one that kind of revolutionized the linebacker position and brought it up to speed in Ryan Shazier. He was the guy that I thought ushered in the change with the undersized middle linebacker that was a physical specimen that could do no wrong. Before Ryan Shazier, I felt like you had to be at least 240 pounds to play inside as a middle linebacker. And Shazier kind of shattered that mold. He was like a 227, 230, 2-pound middle linebacker that flew around the football field and was smashing anything that moved. And unfortunately, that ended up being his demise as an NFL player with the injury that he sustained. But I loved his style of play. They loved him. He was a superstar in the making. And I felt like he kind of set the blueprint for what teams would follow, looking for that playmaker in the middle of your defense. If you can find a guy that looks like Patrick Willis or Luke Kuechly, that's what you're looking for. But those guys don't grow on trees. So, the alternative is it's a league that's getting, stronger, but more importantly, faster on offense. You got to have athletes that can mirror the speed at tight end and the guys that they can put in the backfield or, in the slot. And so guys like Shazier were what the league was moving towards. And they wanted to replace him with a guy that was an athlete in Devin Bush. And for whatever reason, and I think a lot of it was probably just a level of immaturity that just kind of plagued him throughout his career. But he just didn't turn out to be what I thought he was going to be. I actually declared that he was the better of the two Devins. Boy, I couldn't have been more wrong about that. So the Steelers are poised to move on from Devin Bush after this upcoming season. Garrett Bradbury was a guy, Minnesota Vikings take him 18th overall out of NC State. This was a guy that everybody loved, lauded, and praised coming out of NC State as a can't-miss prospect on the inside, on the interior, best suited to be a center but could play guard if need be. And he just hasn't worked out for the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm just not a big fan of taking interior offensive linemen in the first round. I'm just sorry. And I know there are some guys that are like Zach Martin, for instance, or probably the best offensive lineman in all of football right now, Quentin Nelson, Big Q. Look, there are exceptions to the rule. And both of those guys, go figure, Golden Domers. If there's one thing Notre Dame can produce, it's offensive linemen. But it's rare that I'm going to really be all in on an offensive guard in the first round of a draft. I mean, if you get one, like, for instance, Washington took Brandon Sheriff. They thought he was a tackle. That's why they selected him 5th overall. Quickly realized he can't play outside, kicked him inside the guard, became a perennial Pro Bowler and ultimately an All-Pro. And so, yeah, look, that's awesome, cool. But that's not the goal, is to draft a offensive guard. I feel like I can get a guard in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round that can come in and start for me. I don't need to do that in the first round. And so taking a center, I know it's a position of need. And if you can find a Ryan Kelly like the Colts did, then you do that in the first round. But if you're looking at, to me, it's got to be a guy that is a no-doubter. They thought that Garrett Bradbury was going to be that. They were wrong. So they're looking to move on from him. Andre Dillard, man, that is a hell of a saga in Philadelphia with Andre Dillard. So um, I remember not really loving this kid coming out of Washington State. He was primarily a pass protector because they played in the air raid offense under Mike Leach. They did not run the football very often, so there wasn't a lot of him in the running game. And really, you know, if a guy has the athleticism that Andre Dillard had and movement skills, you just feel like, yeah, I got an offensive line coach. He'll be able to, school him up and we'll be fine. They took the kid. He didn't have to play right away. So that was like a blessing in disguise. Okay. Maybe not ready to take on the rigors of the NFL in the run game, but he's a excellent pass protector. He's got quick feet, very agile and mobile, should be able to slide right into the offensive line starting lineup at some point. And they just didn't need him the first year. Then they didn't really need him in the second year. And then by the time when they really needed him, some injuries took place, some suspensions with Lane Johnson, things of that nature. They needed him. He was either injured or he was ineffective. And it just became this thing where they were trying to trade him. Nobody wanted him. It was a mess. And so it was one of those. And, the one thing about the Eagles, and I've said this about Howie Roseman, and you say what you want about Howie. Howie is he's a big game hunter. Howie's swinging for the fences, and I'll never kill a GM. As long as you've got job security, you do whatever the hell you want to do, okay? The guys that can't be assured that if I make a big mistake in the first round, I'm going to keep my job, you got to play it a little closer to the vest. But when you're Howie Roseman, and Howie's probably a bit of a yes man, he's a bit of a punching bag for their owner, Jeffrey Lurie. Seems like that relationship might be a little bit, warped and off a little bit, but that's nor here nor there. One thing about Howie is how he, manipulates the draft. He'll come out of that thing with 4 picks and not bat an eye. 5 guys. The year they got Dallas Goedert after they won the Super Bowl in 2018, I think they had like 4 picks. He didn't care. I'm going to get Dallas Goedert. I think they traded up to get in front of Dallas, so they couldn't get him because they needed a tight end at the time. Ended up with like 4 picks in that draft, and they were done. You saw what they did this year and what they've done in the past, maneuvering around the draft. The one thing I can say about Howie Roseman, for all of the shrewd moves he's made, and he's made some really good moves, boy, has he whiffed in the first round a bunch of times. This is a failed pick, obviously. How about Sidney Jones in the first round? He was injured. Nobody wanted to take him. The Eagles were like, hey, this is great value. We'll take him. He ended up stinking, never really playing well, ended up going. I think he's in Seattle right now, if he's still there. How about, the kid they took, the edge rusher out of Louisville? I think his name was Smith. Man, was he terrible. Did he even chart an NFL sack? I don't know if he did or not. How about the receiver they just took a couple of years ago? They essentially admitted they made a mistake taking him in the first round, the TCU product that they took. Why can't I think of his name? He's so garbage, I can't even think of his name. Jalen Reagor. They had a chance to take Justin Jefferson. That was the ideal situation. I was pissed off because they were going to get Justin Jefferson. He's sitting right there, and they outsmarted themselves and try to be this. I hate when teams try to be the smartest in the room. Seattle's criminally advanced at being the smartest team in the room. They always think they know something. Oh, I'm going to trade back, pick up 27 picks, and have 4 of those guys actually be good. The other 23 suck. But hey, I got 27 picks, and I didn't get a first rounder. Well, and I traded back twice in the second round before making a selection for the first time in the draft. Like that's stupid to me. They always whiff in the first round. Do the Philadelphia Eagles? They consistently whiff. Carson Wentz, another example of that. I mean, it didn't turn out to be a whiff initially, but he's no longer there. When you spend what they spent to go up to get that kid, and then pay him the way that they did early in his rookie contract, you're essentially banking on having your franchise quarterback for the next 12 to 15 years. Clearly that did not work out. They've really struggled in the first round. This is another example of them struggling here with the pick of Andre Dillard. Josh Jacobs. So I talked about this being the biggest surprise of all these guys that are here. Jacobs is the one that I didn't see coming. I didn't see that one coming at all. Now, I will say this. He's been really injury plagued in his career, and he's gutted through a lot of injuries. He's been a tough guy and a warrior, but in this league, and what you have to also keep in mind, got a new administrative group coming in. They see the world differently than the previous GM that was there, Mike Mayock. There is this prevailing thought out there that you don't pay running backs. And if you look at the Patriots model, the Patriots have never really paid any of their running backs. That's not what they do. They'll get a Corey Dillon on the back end of his career, take whatever tread is left on those tires, run it bald, and then move on. LeGarrette Blount, they did the same thing. They would never pay him. LeGarrette Blount would always have to go elsewhere. He'd have a serious breakout season with the Patriots. He'd go to Pittsburgh, and then they'd be like, this is not the shit we saw in New England. And then they get rid of him, and he'd come back to New England, and he'd start kicking ass again. But they would never pay him. They would never pay any of the Brady backs. They never paid running backs. You wanted your money. Really, they didn't pay a lot of the skill guys, period. David Givens was the MVP of the Super Bowl. He had to go to Tennessee to get his money. They really don't pay skill players generally. If they pay money to anyone, it'll usually be on the defensive side of the football, and it'll be at specific positions. You've got to be a all-pro, Pro Bowl type player to get paid in New England. And if you're a running back, you might as well forget about it. So I think that's the philosophy that their new GM comes over with, is that we're not paying Josh Jacobs. This guy's really good. He's not great. He's always injured. He's solid. I really like him. I don't love him. We can find ourselves another running back. We'll be fine. And remember, New England's always had this running back by committee thing. They've had 4 different guys that can fit specialized roles. I don't know if that'll be the new thing in Vegas or not. Remember, they still have Kenyon Drake on that roster. He did have an injury that short-circuited his season last year, but he's still there for one more year. So I don't envision them really heavily investing in the running back position, nor really re-signing a guy like the Packers did with Aaron Jones last season, or the Vikings did with Dalvin Cook, or the Saints did with Alvin Kamara. I think the Patriots model is we can find another guy. We'll be fine. So it shocked me when I first saw it, but it didn't shock me once I thought about it. But they didn't pick up the 5th-year option there. The 27th pick, we're staying with the Vegas Raiders for the 3rd time in the first round. Jonathan Abram not being picked up again. New general manager, new way of thinking. Abram isn't a bad player, but it was the physicality, the toughness, the hit anything that moves type of mentality. He would fly around, the reckless abandon that we talked about, controlled chaos, if you will. It just hasn't really worked out the way that the Raiders envisioned when they took him in the first round. So he's another guy, didn't have his 5th-year option picked up. Jerry Tillery, or as I like to call him, Jerry Heavy Artillery, another Golden Domer. 27th overall selection of the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, another guy that I thought had huge upside, but he had to tap into it. One of the problems with Jerry Tillery at Notre Dame was the inconsistency, or the lack of consistency. You'd see flash plays from Jerry Tillery where there were games where he was unblockable at Notre Dame. And then there were games where he was invisible and you didn't even know if he was playing or not. And it was those games that I felt like ultimately have doomed him at the NFL level, because there's just too many of those instances where he's not the player that he is capable of being. And so, unfortunately, the Chargers are tired of waiting for him to show up and show out on a consistent basis. They've decided to move on from Jerry Tillery. So did not pick up his 5th-year option. He'll be a free agent after the upcoming season. LJ Collier, 29th overall selection. This was the Seattle Seahawks. I've talked about the Seahawks. They're another team that fails in the first round. They just either they trade out of the first round altogether, or they just seem to not understand what good value is in the first round. And again, this is where that smartest team in the room mentality kind of comes from, which is why they always decide to trade back. They much rather have 3 5th-round picks, 2 6s, and 2 7s than to spend a 1st and a 2nd on a quality player that can come in. They'd rather have more shots at the hoop, at the basket, more darts that they can throw at the board to see if they can stick, rather than just taking one dart and saying, hey, let's get this thing as close to the bullseye as possible. They did it with Rashad Penny. That was a disaster. They did it here with LJ Collier. That was a disaster. They've had some really, really bad first round picks. Jordan Brooks is coming along good for them, so that's a positive there. But they need more in Seattle. Clearly, LJ Collier, not it. 31st overall, Caleb McGarry for the Atlanta Falcons. And the interesting thing with McGarry was I didn't think that the Falcons needed to do that. Like, they didn't need to draft another offensive lineman. They had felt like they had drafted a first round offensive lineman like 4 out of the previous 5 years. They had Jake Matthews. They had drafted McGarry, if I'm not mistaken. And there was one more guy, Lindstrom from Boston College. I'm like, how many first round offensive linemen do you need? Like, this is crazy. So, I always just felt like it was overkill. And he had a medical issue. Remember, he was supposed to be much higher in the draft. There was a medical issue with him that scared teams off. So they probably thought they were going to get some tremendous value here, and they didn't. I never loved the pick. I just was never a fan of the pick by the Falcons. And then N'Keal Harry was this selection here, 32nd overall. I was wrong about him. So we knew he couldn't separate. We knew he wasn't fast. This, that, and the third, but I thought he was going to be like a Michael Thomas type dude, where he just would, body you. DeAndre Hopkins even, where, Hopkins doesn't separate a lot. If you watch a lot of his, especially when he was in Houston, you watch a lot of his catches, guys are draped all over DeAndre Hopkins, but guess what? He's still catching the damn football. Had one of the highest catch rates in terms of, targeted passes in the league. He rarely dropped the football. And it didn't matter who was throwing it to him. Didn't matter what corner was draped all over him. He was going to make the catch. And I said, well, that looks like N'Keal Harry. No matter what is going on, who's draped all over him, big, tall guy, strong hands, I just see him making plays on the football regardless of the situation. And I couldn't have been more wrong. But the minute he was drafted by the New England Patriots, I should have known he's going to turn out to be a bust, because the Patriots do not draft first-round wide receivers well at all. And really just receivers in general, they don't draft very well in New England. That's why that Tyquan Thornton pick, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, what the hell was that about? So that was a second-round pick, though, this past year in the draft. But we will see what the hell happens. So always fascinated to see the fifth-year options and how teams view those. And clearly, this draft in 2019 for these teams with these particular players did not go well. So let's go ahead and transition to our next topic and segment, and that's social media maneuvers. I'm a midnight marauder. Y'all know what it is. Go ahead and start lining up your comments. Y'all know how this part of the show goes. For those of you who do not, I quickly will put it up on the screen, but use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent, and we'll discuss it. Whatever you want to announce, or whatever you want to announce, whatever you want to say, use the hashtag LouieTLive. If you want to jump, because I can't assure you we'll get to your comment clearly, but if you want to assure yourself of your comment being read, super chats are the way to do that. And that's the way to jump to the front of the line, instead of having to wait and hope that we get to your comment. If there are enough super hashtags, we may not get to your comment. So especially if they're, juicy ones or intriguing ones, or ones that evoke thought and dialogue, we could stick on one for a while. And by the time we get through 5 or 6 of those, all right, let's move on and get out of here. So super chats are the way to make sure that your comment gets read. So before I get to any of the comments, what I do want to do real quick is, you know what? I'm gonna take a couple of those. I only got a couple of super chats, I think. So what I'll do is I'll knock out some super chats, and then what I want to do is I want to jumpstart the conversation with you guys about the schedule, the primetime schedule. I've got some interesting thoughts on the schedule, the primetime schedule, that is, and I want to get your thoughts on it. And then if you got anything to add with your team schedule, because I haven't really looked at anybody's individual schedule other than Washington's. I remember once upon a time when I first started, I made it a point of emphasis to look at everybody's schedule. And I used to do a schedule recap for every single team in the league. That was a lot of work, and it was not a lot of dividends that I received from that work. So that quickly became something that I realized you don't have to do. But it did. I always like doing things like that because I'm informed on what other teams' schedules look like, but I have no clue what anybody else's schedule looks like. So if you're a fan of a different team other than my own, and you have some thoughts on your team's schedule, I'd love to hear about it. So with that said, let's get to the comment section real quick and knock out some comments. Door Gunner, stand up. You are officially the newest member of the MOBB. Truly appreciate you, Door Gunner. Thank you for becoming a member of the MOBB. Mob, you know what to do. Open your arms wide. Welcome, Door Gunner, back to the squad. Welcome back. Malachi Malik, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Malachi Malik writes, Late Night Lou, gotta love it. Dotson is snatching balls out there, out of the air, left and right. 2 words, Lou. Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay. I was like, No, not uh-oh. I already told you the kid's going to be just fine. He's exactly what we needed in Washington, opposite of Terry. For all of those people out there that wanted size, I just want a consistent receiver opposite of Terry McLaurin. That's all I was looking for, which is why I wanted Corey Davis. Not because Corey Davis was big and offered us some size, because I knew what we were getting opposite of Terry if Corey Davis were the number 2 receiver. I still don't know what we're getting from Curtis Samuel. We'll see. We're hoping that he stays healthy, number 1, and then number 2, he provides us a real spark offensively and really puts pressure on defenses when they have to play us as to who to take away. You got all these guys that can run, sub, 4 or 5 guys that can straight up run, pick them up, put them down. Your first 4 receivers on the depth chart, if you add in De'Ami Brown, all of these guys are sub 4.5 40 guys. De'Ami's a 4.44 guy. Jahan Dotson's 4.43, and both Terry and Curtis Samuel are sub 4.4 guys. So you got guys that can flat out fly across the board, which is something we haven't been able to say in Washington for eons, where we've just had tremendous speed all over the football field. Of course, you got Gibson in the backfield, who is a 4.3 guy himself and can run. J.D. McKissick is also a 4.3 guy. So there's speed everywhere except for pretty much tight end. We got speed on the football field. So you just really love what we can put on the field, and Dotson's going to be a huge part of that. So I was excited when we drafted him. The initial, oh, wow, John Dotson. Yeah, okay. But, it made a ton of sense, and you picked up draft capital and allowed you to maneuver the board a little bit differently than what you would have been had you not moved back and still gotten a guy like Jahan Dotson. So thank you for the super chat, Malachi Malik. Uh-oh is right. All right. Got another new member. Johnny Boy 26, stand up. You are officially in the building as the newest member of the MOBB. Greatly appreciate you, Johnny Boy 26. It's been a while, man, but I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you as a member of the MOBB. Y'all know what to do. Show my guy, Johnny Boy 26, some love. Embrace him. Welcome him home. Johnny Boy 26, welcome to the squad. Glad to have you. John Livingston, my guy, JL Smooth. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JL Smooth, 105.3. Appreciate you for the super chat. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. JL Smooth writes, what up, Lou? Gonna take a second away from football and say rest in peace to those killed 20 minutes away from me in Buffalo at a grocery store, gunned down because they were black. This hate has to stop. Why do we keep doing this to each other, man? Question mark. I ask myself that every day. and a lot of this stuff is senseless. A lot of it is propaganda that's spewed by people in positions of power. And unfortunately, when you have people that aren't able to think for themselves and allow themselves to be brainwashed into thinking that their race is superior to another and that they have to eradicate a race by themselves, they have to do their part individually to make things right. Uh, it's crazy that we sit here in 2022 and we still have stupid shit like this happening. This kind of stuff breaks my heart. It also pisses me off. Like when it happened, I was on social media, just perusing around, minding my own damn business. This pops up. I take a look at it and I get into it a little bit. And then I find myself getting so angry that I had to just get off of social media because this is so senseless. You hear about a 77-year-old woman who is gunned down in this massacre. Call it what it is. This was a massacre right here. This was terrorism on our own soil. And she's one of these dedicated community service workers where she's feeding the community every Saturday. She's got a pantry and she feeds families in the local community that was near that shopping grocery store that she was at every Saturday religiously. Huge part of the church, always giving back to the community, always helping those in need. And that's how she meets her demise at 77 years old. Like, are you kidding me? Like, and the fact that this clown gets to walk out of there alive, I can tell you this much. And I don't want to go on a whole diatribe, because again, that's not why you're here. And I don't want to turn this into some kind of political thing because I don't want you to think that I'm a huge political guy because I'm not. Is that like politics is really just to me it's a way to make us as people divided. And it's a very divisive topic. There's so many different angles, and honestly, at the end of the day, a lot of that shit doesn't even matter. In my day-to-day life, whatever's happening with politics, that shit does not impact me nor my family. There are certain, decisions that are made that will impact my family, and that's when I get involved. That's when I feel the need to vote and do this and do that. I mean, shit, a lot of these local elections are more important than these national ones, but that's nor here nor there. I mean, to think, I'm going off on a tangent. I don't want to do that. The fact that he got to walk out of there, the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse got to walk out, the fact that, we had insurgents here in our own country storm the Capitol, most of them white, and a lot of them only getting slaps on the wrist. The fact that had those been black people, had those been people of color, oh, it would have been blood on the streets. That kid doesn't walk out of that grocery store alive if he's black. Trust me. We got, 10-year-olds out here being assaulted by cops for a bag of chips. This guy goes in, shoots 20 people, and they walk him out peacefully. Are you kidding me? But I digress. I'm not going to do that to y'all tonight. But I'm with you, JL Smooth. This shit has to stop, man. Where does it end? I mean, it's still frustrating because my ancestors, my grandfather, my grandmother, my great-grands, they fought for us to be in a position where we shouldn't be having to have these same conversations right now that we're having right now. It's frustrating, but I digress. Rest in peace to all of those. Rest in paradise to all of those who lost their lives senselessly in that tragedy just a couple of days ago, man. It's just that kind of stuff it eats at me, man. It really does. Because it could be anybody. That could be you. You could be going to the store. You just were going to the store to go pick up some milk real quick. Your spouse thinks you're coming back in 5 minutes and you don't come back at all. Like, that's the shit that really irks me. Everybody's just minding their own business. He drove 2 hours. He knew exactly what he was going to do. Thank you once again for that, JL Smooth. Let's see. I think that was the last super chat. that I'm going to take for now. I'm going to stop it right there. I got some super chats down here. And I think I just saw somebody say that my man was a second round pick, the corner, Sidney Jones. He might have been a second round pick. Usually guys that get injured that you don't think are going to be able to help you that first year, it's rare that those guys are first round picks. I know Marcus Smith was, I think his name was Marcus Smith. And it was definitely Smith. I know he was a first round pick. And whether, I don't know if Howie was in control of the draft then or not. The Eagles, they whiffed on some first round picks. I can assure you of that. So anyway, I digress. I want to get to some of these comments in a second. I want to run through the schedules real fast though, to kind of, jumpstart this conversation that we'll have tonight. And so let's take a look at the schedules of the primetime games for Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. The first thing I want to point out, however, is the fact that each team has a certain allotment of primetime games, and usually this is determined by level of interest. Are you a good football team? Are you a team that's going to draw eyeballs? Nobody wants to see the Jags play the Jets. So clearly those teams aren't going to have a bunch of primetime games, right? But the teams that move the needle, the teams that are good, generally these are teams with quarterbacks. And as we'll see here, the quarterbacks drive the demand in the league. So if you've got one of these guys that can sling it all around the field, you're exciting. We want to see you. We want to see you a bunch. So let's run through the amount of primetime games per team and see if anybody is an outlier, and we can kind of play the who doesn't belong game. Okay, so let's start with that 5 number. 5 primetime games, which is the maximum allotment that you are able to have in any given season, which means I call them 5-star team. You're a 5-star team when you get 5 primetime games. Cincinnati, of course, made it to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow, all of those weapons on the offensive side of the football, Jamar Chase and company, no brainer. We saw that primetime game, the last game of the season, Raiders and Chargers, and what Justin Herbert is. And we already knew what he was, but this guy is a superstar in the making. So clearly, again, another young, budding superstar at the quarterback position. You're going to want to see that guy as many times as possible. Rams won the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford, future Hall of Famer. I think that Super Bowl kind of puts him in that rarefied air now. He's going to probably be a Super Bowl, a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. They're going to get 5 primetime games. Josh Allen, wow, what a way to go out, man. If you're going to go out of the postseason, you go out the way he did, like an OG shooting. You know what I mean? Like, look, he went down, had a couple of bullet holes in him, but one thing's for sure, he went down guns a-blazing, emptied the clip, and unfortunately, he just didn't get another chance. But we know what Josh Allen is. I think he's got future MVP of the league written all over him. So clearly, that's a 5-star team there. This is the team right here, the Philadelphia Eagles. I can't help but look at all of these teams. And there's another team or two in here that I'm like, what do we need to see them 5 times for? But the Eagles, why? Why? Why do we need now? The thing about a team like Philadelphia, all right, I don't want to act like the Eagles are trash because they're not. And they have a well-built roster. However, their quarterback situation is less than ideal. But here's where the Eagles are able to find themselves getting the benefit of the doubt. You play in a division with Dallas, who is a media and a primetime darling. Like, they're going to get 5 every year because they have a quarterback. And once they have a quarterback, that means you think they're going to be good. Even if they're not going to be good, you're going to see Dallas 5 times a year. No less than 4. So more than likely, the Eagles are going to get at least 1 game against Dallas on primetime, right? So that's one. You knew they were going to get the Carson Wentz game on primetime. That had to happen. So that's an extra one that they probably would not have gotten. I think they would have been more likely than not on that 4 line, if not for Carson Wentz coming back to the link. They had to put that on primetime. So they got an extra game that I don't think they should have gotten or wouldn't have gotten had that dynamic not been in play this year. But who needs to see the Eagles 5 times? Not me. I can't speak for anybody else out there. I don't need to see the Eagles and Jalen Hurts 5 times. in one season on primetime television. I'm good. I would have preferred them be in this three hole right here with New Orleans, Baltimore, and Chicago. I'd rather watch the Ravens 5 times than the Eagles, and I get it. The Ravens didn't make the playoffs last year, and the Eagles did. Okay, but you ask me would I rather see Lamar Jackson or would I rather see Jalen Hurts? Is that even a real question? Tampa Bay, it's Tom Brady. Do I need to say anything else? I don't think I do, so I won't. Green Bay, it's Aaron Rodgers. Again, just like I did with Brady, do I need to say anything else? I don't think I do, so I won't. Dallas, they're America's team, Jersey boys. And look, they're a big draw. You can love them, hate them. You can be indifferent about them. They are the biggest draw in the NFL. You put the Dallas Cowboys on, you're going to get a ton of eyeballs, period, end of discussion. Whether you're there to see them win or you're there to see them lose, crash, and burn, whatever the case may be, you're rubbernecking when the Cowboys are on the television set. The NFL knows that, and they're going to get 5 primetime games just about every single season. The 49ers are one of those franchises that are intriguing. They're not an NFL blue blood, but they kind of are. They're one of those teams that when they're good, the NFL feels like we have to showcase them. You know, they're one of the biggest draws out on the left coast. When the 49ers are good, it's really good for the league when they're good, and it's good for the 49ers. We don't know if they're going to be good this year. And they've got a question mark at quarterback in Trey Lance, but I think it's the intrigue of Trey Lance coupled with the fact that they made it all the way to the NFC Championship game and the NFL thinks they're going to be good. Because remember, not only do you have to have a quarterback that we look upon as being really good, that's one of the factors. It's one of the bigger factors, which is why the Eagles don't belong here. But you also have to have been good the year before, which the Eagles were good. And all these teams that you see here were playoff teams a season ago. And you also have to be projected to be good again. Okay. They're not going to put you on primetime 5 times because you were good last year, but you look like you could stink this year, which is why the next team, or let's just skip over New England. We'll come back to them. The next team in the Steelers. Why? I get it. Now they're one of the similar to the 49ers, they're NFL royalty. If they're good, they're going to be on 5 times because they're a big draw. And we know the Steelers are capable of coming in and taking over your stadium, but they're also capable of coming in and taking over your television set as well. But that said, who the hell is clamoring for Mitchell Trubisky at the quarterback position? And even if that doesn't last very long and it's Kenny Pickett, are you dying to watch Kenny Pickett? Because I'm not. I didn't need the Steelers here. They were a hard watch last year when they had Big Ben. Why are they going to be any better this year? They don't belong here. The Steelers, neither one of these Pennsylvania teams belong with 5 primetime games. The Patriots, again, they're another one of these teams that if they're good, they're going to get 5 primetime games. They responded after not making the postseason, post Brady year 1. They come back, they get Mac Jones. The miggity, Mac, bow. And he turns things around for them. They make it to the playoffs. They get dispatched in embarrassing fashion in wild card weekend against the Buffalo Bills, but it doesn't change the fact that Mac Jones was really good and the Patriots look to be back in a position of power. And so they get 5 primetime games. I don't love it. I think they should have been at most 4. Really, I think they're probably more of a 3 team. I don't need, Brady was the reason that the Patriots were even tolerable for 5 primetime games in the past because they weren't really a fun watch. It's just you were there to see Brady. Now that Brady's no longer there, why do I need to see the Patriots 5 times? I don't. They could have limited that to 4. Really, I think they should be on that 3 line. Really, Baltimore should be on this 5 line. I sign up for Lamar Jackson every day of the week. And again, you can't be assured he's going to be healthy, and you don't want to get caught up in, having to see the backup quarterback start a primetime game. And I get that. I'm not really dying to see Mac Jones, but that's nor here nor there. You knew Denver, once they got, Russell Wilson, they were a 5-piece. Okay. KC with Mahomes, same thing I said about Rodgers and Brady. I don't really need to go into, detail as to why they've got 5. So overall, that list of 5 isn't bad. Just, three teams that kind of stand out: Philadelphia, New England, and Pittsburgh. To me, none of those teams need to be with 5 primetime games. And I really think a lot of those 3 teams getting 5 is an East Coast bias, that does exist. But we'll see if those teams, live up to the hype with the games that they're in. So on the 4 line, Tennessee, Indianapolis, Vegas, and Arizona. I really don't have a big gripe with this list other than the fact that the AFC North, or excuse me, South, is the least attractive division in all of football. The NFL makes that abundantly clear by how they schedule their postseason games. I don't know if you realize this. I've been talking about this for years. They know that the most unattractive game of the postseason is going to feature the AFC South. So they always start off the postseason. That 4:30 Saturday game to kick off Wild Card Weekend is always the AFC South winner. Okay, the team that wins that division. The only reason that that didn't occur this past year was because the Titans won the division and they were the only team to make the playoffs from that division, and they had the number 1 seed in the first round bye, so they couldn't put them on Saturday at 4:30. But if you go back every year prior to that, even when Andrew Luck was the quarterback for the Colts, that game is always, that first game of Wild Card Weekend is always the AFC South winner, because it's not a great draw. It's not a division that people care about, even when there's star power at the quarterback position, like when Andrew Luck was there, or even when you go back to Peyton Manning, that's a long time ago. That's probably the last time that they didn't feature that division when they won. But after Manning left, it's always been whomever wins that division. Even when Deshaun Watson was in Houston, it's always been whoever wins that division. So I struggle with Tennessee and Indianapolis getting 4 apiece. I do, because the Colts don't play an exciting brand of football, and the Titans don't really, for that matter, either. But I don't mind that, because the Titans are good, and usually Indianapolis is good as well. So all of those teams get 4. The new look Vegas Raiders are going to be intriguing. They made a bunch of splash moves in the offseason, so a lot of people are interested there. And then Arizona with Kyler Murray and that explosive offense, you don't mind watching that over and over again. So the 3 line, I struggle with this 3 line here. For one, Baltimore should be a 4 or 5. I think Baltimore is a 5, even though they didn't make the playoffs, and that's probably why they're down at number on the 3 line, is because they didn't make the playoffs last year. And then that Lamar Jackson factor. Again, last year he was banged up. What you don't want to do is get to that game and they've got their backup quarterback in there. That's just not a good look for the NFL. So I kind of understand that, but I don't love it. Okay, I don't love it. New Orleans, I'm fine with them having 3. Primetime games. That's not something that really moves the needle for me one way or the other. Chicago, I struggle with that because they stink. They're a hard watch. They were on several times last year, and every single one of those games was like pulling teeth. For the last 3 years, watching Bears primetime games have been like pulling teeth without any kind of numbing of your gums or any kind of anesthesia. It's just been excruciating. Okay. There was a game last year, I want to say it was them against Pittsburgh, where they moved the ball down the field like 5 times and then couldn't score any points. They would get to like the 40-yard line and then find a way to implode. It might have been Minnesota. I think it was Minnesota. I can't. All of them look the same. They feel the same. It's just terrible to watch. Why do they have 3? Because they're the Bears. They're NFL royalty. They're one of the blue bloods. This has got to stop, though. They stink. They should be down here on the 1 line with the rest of these, ass clowns, not up here at 3, forcing us to watch Justin Fields run for his life for, 60 minutes. That's garbage. But I have no problems with New Orleans, and Baltimore should be higher. They shouldn't be a 3. I think, New England or Philadelphia should be on this 3 line instead of Baltimore. But again, I think Philly should be on the 4 line. I think Pittsburgh should be on the 3 line. That's the team should be on the 3 line. Baltimore should be on the 5 line, but whatever. The 2 line, I really don't have any qualms with the 2 line. Cleveland, because Deshaun Watson, you don't know if he's going to get suspended by the league or not. Clearly, if they knew they were getting a full 17 games out of him, this is probably a team that's elevated up this list to like 4, right? But because of the uncertainty of Deshaun Watson, you just got to play it safe with the Browns. Washington, who knows what's going to happen with Carson Wentz. I think the embarrassment, because Washington, it's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde with them on primetime television. You got a whale of a ball game on the second week of the season on Thursday Night Football against the Giants. It was one of the best games of the season, primetime wise. And then you got a debacle on Sunday Night Football against Dallas where you're like, this shit is unwatchable. Don't put them on Sunday Night Football anymore. So they deserve to be here on the 2 line. They've got a chance to get to the 3 line because the NFL actually left both their week 17 and 18 contests open to being flexed in the prime time. So they could easily move from the 2 spot to the 3 or possibly even up to the 4 slot, depending on, where they are in the season, what they're chasing after, and what their opponents are playing for as well. Miami is another one of these teams where it's just, they're not a great watch. And then, you got 2 in there. We're going to see what they do this year. They've got some pieces that are exciting. They got a brand new head coach that may perk up that offense a bit, but you still got to see it. Seattle, they should have been on the 1 line. They are going to be absolutely garbage can juice this year. They should have been on the 1 line. There's no reason to watch Seattle twice. All right. Not whatsoever. Minnesota, I think they're fine right where they're at. I think they're fine right where they are. And then the 1 line here: Jets, Giants, Texans, Jags, Panthers, Falcons. I got no arguments there. Every single one of these teams are hard watches right now. Atlanta might be more exciting when they get Desmond Ridder in there. Maybe not. Again, he looks just like the quarterback that they're starting. So I don't know if there'll be that much of a difference or not. Carolina might be a little bit more exciting when they get Matt Corral in there. But for the time being, we got to deal with Sam Darnold. I'm good. I'll pass. Put him on Thursday night in an obscure week like week 9 when nobody gives a shit. Really, I prefer you to get them out of the way early. Put them on, Thursday night on week 3. Get them out of the way early, so I don't got to worry about them anymore. But if I'm the schedule makers, I put them on late in the season, so maybe Sam Darnold's out of there and Matt Corral's in there, and at least that's a reason to want to watch. Anyway, Jacksonville, same thing. Trevor Lawrence, I think he's going to be in a much better spot this year. Much better coaching staff. Clearly, all the stories that are coming out about Herb, it's just amazing that they were even able to function last year and didn't go 0-17. But they still got a long ways to go. And in order for that to be a watchable product that you want to invest time in, they're going to have to get their shit together. So you got to see it first. Can't just assume Doug Peterson, former Super Bowl winning head coach, is just going to come in there, turn it around year 1, and they're going to be a fun team to watch. I think that could actually happen, but I got to see it first. Same with the Houston Texans. Like, they actually believe in Davis Mills. They want to see it again. Last year, he was actually pretty damn good for them. And now they want to see it when he's the unquestioned leader. They put some weapons around him. I think they want to see him take that next step. Cool. I'd like to see it too, but I just want to see it once. I don't need to see it more than that. Giants, they stink. And Daniel Jones, and you don't know if he's going to be healthy. You don't know if Saquon Barkley's going to be healthy. They've got a long road ahead of them, but they've got the right guys, I think, in place. But we'll see. I said the same thing about Joe Judge. Hey, I really like this guy. He turned out to be a mega failure. Not only as a head coach, but as a leader of men, which to me it might be even a bigger task and more important to be a leader of men than to be an X's and O's guy. I've seen so many smart guys be head coaches, but can't lead men and fail. So I think they've got the right guys in charge now, but nobody wants to see them try to figure it out. Same with the Jets. I like Zach Wilson. He's got a long way to go. They've still, got a lot of developing to do. But and they may ultimately be a fun team to watch. They got a lot of talent out there in the skill positions, especially after the draft that they just turned in. Man, they look like a team on paper that's going to be fun to watch and very explosive, similar to the Cincinnati Bengals. I could see them turning into the Bengals. You remember the Bengals, weren't great in Joe Burrow's first year. They added more offensive talent, went and got him a true number 1 wide receiver, and all of a sudden, things kind of clicked for them. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with the Jets, but they got them a guy that they feel like can be a true number 1 wide receiver for them, and Garrett Wilson. You add the running back in there and Breece Hall, and all of a sudden they got the makings of being an explosive. And then they added 2 tight ends in free agency. I mean, it's just they could be interesting. But again, much like I said with teams like Houston and even Jacksonville, to a lesser degree. You got to prove it. I need to see it first. I can't assume you're going to be better and give you 3 primetime games and then you suck ass. So, and then the lowly Detroit Lions. Wow, 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 wow. Poor Detroit. They're down here at the bottom with a big nothing burger. So they have the Thanksgiving game. You know, that's one of the rituals of the NFL schedule, something that I don't want to see change. That there was, this groundswell like 3-4 years ago for, hey, why don't we get Dallas and Detroit out of there? Like, no. These are traditions that are timeless that I don't want to ever change. Detroit needs to be on Thanksgiving. Okay, when these games first came out, the history, if I give you a quick history lesson of Thanksgiving, nobody wanted to play these Thanksgiving games. The Cowboys and the Lions stepped up as the 2 teams that volunteered to play. So when nobody else wanted it, they stepped up. So they deserve to have Thanksgiving every year. Now, most players don't want to play on Thanksgiving, and I don't blame them. But for me, Detroit and Dallas are timeless traditions that I want to be upheld. And so the Lions technically are on prime time in my mind, because what else is on at 12:30 on Thanksgiving Day? Nothing but the Detroit Lions and whomever they're playing. So to me, that's prime time. But prime time is technically night games that start at 8 or later, because that's the prime time on the East Coast. So technically speaking, the Lions don't have a primetime game because their Thursday night, everybody gets a Thursday night. Their Thursday night game is actually a Thursday day game. So they don't have any primetime games. So I think that will be a part of the discussion on Hard Knocks, that they don't have a primetime game. They're being disrespected. You got to earn respect in this league. I don't blame the schedule makers for making the Lions an offer this year. But I find it interesting. I'm always fascinated by the amount of primetime games. That's a lot of 5-star teams. So the league is essentially telling us these are the halves up here, the 5-star teams: Cincinnati, Chargers, Rams, Bills, Eagles, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, Dallas, San Francisco, Patriots, Steelers, Broncos, and Chiefs. Those are the halves. All right. And the Titans, they're telling you who they think is going to be good. The 5-star and the 4-star teams, they think they're going to be good. And they're going to be wrong about 3 or 4 of those teams. They always are. I remember that one year Jimmy Garoppolo got traded from New England. He went undefeated, like 5-0 after being traded. And the league lost their mind, similar to the way they're losing their mind right now with San Francisco having 5 primetime games. And with Trey Lance in there, and they have no idea what he's going to be, right? They went ape shit the next year, gave the 49ers 5 primetime games. Jimmy Garoppolo came in, got injured like week 2 towards ACL, and they were stuck with 5 49ers games. And it was now, and you know what? I think 1 or 2 of them were actually entertaining. CJ Beathard came in there and almost upset Aaron Rodgers on a Monday night at Lambeau. Should have won that game. Don't even know how they lost. Still don't understand how they lost that game. But it was terrible. You had to deal with the 49ers for the remainder of the year. So you got to be careful with that. Anyway, I digress. Let's move on to the Sunday night slate. So this is the premier package for the NFL, meaning the best of the best, the creme de la creme, only play on Sunday night. Like, if we don't view you as a top-notch organization and team, you won't be on the docket for Sunday night football. We want the best of the best, because this is when we're going to have the most eyes of any day. Sunday night, you're winding down from a long weekend. There's this whole slate of games, and now you're going to sit down on the fat part of your ass with your remote in hand or whatever device you're watching it on, and you're going to sit back and you're going to watch this Sunday night game to cap off your weekend before you got to head to work the next day. This is their premier product, Sunday night football, okay? Used to be Monday night football. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was Monday night football. That's changed, and it's been Sunday night ever since. Madden pretty much came over to the Sunday night booth eons ago. So to me, I look at these games, and the first one jumps out at me because that was the Thursday night game last year, and it was a classic. Cowboys and Bucks. Brady got it last. Cowboys had every opportunity to win that game, and Brady got it last and hurt their heads. Final possession, took it down the field, got them in the field goal range, and the Buccaneers won. that game. So they're going to run it back. This time it's going to be in Big D. Cowboys will be at home. That'll be the first Sunday night game of the season. And as you can see, Dallas has 3 Sunday night games. Again, that's big stage. Big D, big stage, big lights, bright lights. Cowboys usually show up. Don't always show out, but they show up, and they're going to bring a lot of fans and a lot of eyeballs with them. So you see that. You see the Buccaneers are another team. Usually you don't get more than 3, but 3 means you're not only a 5-star team, but you're of the highest caliber. Brady and the Buccaneers have 3 primetime games on Sunday Night Football. As you can see, Aaron Rodgers probably, if I had to guess, there you go. You see that they've got 3 matchups on Sunday Night Football. Let's see who else may have 3. I would assume Kansas City would have 3. I see Mahomes once, twice, 3 times. Yep. I would say Buffalo might have 3. Let's see. I see 1. Oh, no, only 1 for Buffalo. That's surprising. I thought they would be a little bit more in vogue right now. See any other quarterbacks. The Chargers might have in the Bengals. Let's see how many they have. Bengals have 1, 2. Chargers have 1, 2. So those are up and coming teams. With one more strong performance from each of those quarterbacks, I could see them having 3 primetime games on Sunday Night Football moving forward. But let's dig into some of these games. So just the ones that we care about. I mean, we can go through all of them real quick, but Packers, Bears, that's family business. Really don't care about that matchup. The Packers usually blow them out when they're on primetime, but we'll see if this is different. I don't love that matchup. 49ers, Broncos, that'll be interesting. Again, Russell Wilson in Denver, San Francisco 49ers, Trey Lance, that should be entertaining stuff. Kansas City at Tampa Bay, that's a big one on the schedule. When it first came out, that was the one that they were highlighting as the must-see game. We were robbed of that. No, that was Aaron Rodgers. When Mahomes was hurt. Rodgers played, Mahomes was hurt. So we saw that in the Super Bowl rematch of a couple of years ago when the Buccaneers destroyed the Chiefs. So we'll see what happens there. It seems like every time those 2 teams play, it's always in Tampa, never in Kansas City. It's in Tampa yet again. Bengals, Ravens, that'll be intriguing stuff because the Bengals showed last year they're not afraid of anybody in that division. And they really beat up on the Ravens last year in Baltimore, embarrassed them, if you will. So that'll be interesting stuff. Eagles hosting Dallas. We seem to get that on some, one of these platforms. Last year was on Monday night. The Cowboys destroyed the Eagles early in the season on a Monday night. We always seem to get this at some point. I'm shocked that they put this on Sunday night, to be honest with you. I thought this would have been a Monday night type of game, but I'm not shocked that those 2 teams are playing in prime time because usually you get one of that, and then usually what you get is Giants and Dallas on Sunday night, but the Giants stink, so they replaced them with the Eagles. They tried to give us that mantle last year, and we fumbled that whole bag. So they was like, okay, we can't run that back. Let's try the Eagles instead. Steelers and Dolphins, I don't love that game. Not looking forward to that. That could change, obviously. Green Bay and Buffalo, that should be a dandy right there. 2 of the premier quarterbacks in the league going at it in Buffalo. Hopefully the weather permits and we don't have that bullshit we had last year with the wind and the precipitation when it was like 7-6. That was, I think, a little bit later in the season. That was in December, though. Titans, Chiefs. That is that's solid. I don't love the Titans. You know that. I'll just move on. I don't love the Titans. Chargers and 49ers, 2 young quarterbacks. So that's going to be the draw there. If Trey Lance is still in there, how is he playing? How are the 49ers playing? And then Justin Herbert. You just love seeing Justin Herbert play. Then you get Bengals, Steelers. It's family business. It's usually really good physical family business. We'll see how that one goes. Packers, Eagles. Again, I didn't need this. I didn't need this one. Like this is why the Eagles shouldn't have 5. I don't need this. They put this shit on. Make this America's Game of the Week 425 on Fox. I don't need to see this shit on Sunday Night Football. I'm good. I'm pretty sure I can go through the slate in week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I can go through the slate of games in week 12 and I can find a better game than that. I did not need to see that on Sunday Night Football. Colts at Cowboys. I don't know how to feel about that because, again, I don't need to see the Colts against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. I just don't. If you want to put the Colts on Sunday Night Football, have them playing Tennessee. Make it family business. I don't need to see Colts and Cowboys. That's some Thanksgiving shit, right? I don't need that on Sunday night. Chiefs, Broncos, family business. Love it. Want to see how that turns out. Russell Wilson versus Patrick Mahomes. That should be fun. Raiders versus hosting the Patriots. They're gonna build that up, and you know why they did it. That's gonna be Josh McDaniels hosting Bill Belichick. So it's the mentor against the mentee, and do you want to see if he can slay Bill Belichick? And they're gonna talk up the whole dynamic between the Raiders front office and all the pieces that were from New England. And yeah. Bucks at Cards. That should be interesting. And it'll be interesting to see where those two teams are at that point of the season. That'd be really interesting to see as well. Rams at Chargers. That should be a tough one as well. Two LA teams battling it out. That should be excellent football late in the season. And we'd like to think that both of those teams will be good. So that game will mean something for both of those teams. And then to be determined, the final Sunday of the regular season game of the season. I got a feeling that's going to end up being Washington hosting Dallas. Something's going to be on the line, whether it's the division or, somebody's fighting for a wild card spot. Something's going to be on the line in that game. Maybe seeding purposes, maybe the number one seed is on the line. Maybe Dallas or Washington is good enough to be in a position to have the number, because both of them have I know you've seen this. Dallas and Washington have the softest schedules currently, as constituted from last year's, records and what they're projected to do. They've got the softest schedule, but Dallas and Washington both have the softest schedule, tied for the easiest schedule in the league. So it wouldn't be shocking if that game is for the number one seed in the NFC. Highly unlikely, but let me dream. Dream. Let me dream, man. If I'm dreaming, just leave me alone. All right. Monday Night Football. This is the slate. So this is the second in the pantheon of NFL packages, the Monday night slate. It's fallen on hard times the last couple of years. They injected the Manning brothers last year to kind of give it a little bit of life. They've been playing around with the booth. They couldn't find a good, duo, trio. They finally solved that conundrum by, prying away Joe Buck and Troy Aikman from Fox, who will now do the Monday night games. That makes Monday Night Football so much more enjoyable for me. I know some of you can't stand Aikman and Buck. That's fine. The commentators are all preference. It's all subjective for me. Those guys do a fantastic job. Love what they'll bring to the table. And they stabilize one of the best nights of football for me. So I don't have to go seek out the Manning cast, because although I like the Manning cast, with the guests, they just do too much for me. It's too much taking away from the game and not enough emphasis on what the hell's happening on the screen. So I much rather just watch the game traditionally with the telecast. And so I may have, if I got my two TVs going, I may have the Manning cast down at the bottom, but for the most part, I can now watch the game and enjoy it with just, the commentators in Aikman and Buck. So looking at this slate, we won't go through each and every single game here, but we'll just pick out some that make sense. The first one jumps off the screen at you. Obviously, Russell Wilson going back to Seattle. They did that on purpose. That's going to be fantastic. It's going to be a raucous crowd. The Seahawks stink. That's the only thing that's going to make that game tragically bad. I could see them getting run out of their own building in that game, but we'll see what happens. But that's going to be a scene similar to Brady going back to New England and how big of a deal that was. it's going to be somewhat of a spectacle in week 1. Um, you go through the list here. Week 2 is interesting because it's a double header, but it's not on the same network. So, normally when you get a double header, it's one game and then it's staggered, and then the next game comes on after that first game. Well, you're getting a game on ESPN at like 7:30, and then the second game is coming on at like 8:30, like an hour later. So it's kind of weird, and that's going to be on ABC. Now, you remember ESPN, ABC, they're all owned by Disney, so they're all under one umbrella. So, um, you know, it's not that uncommon to see, the same networks or networks that are owned by a parent company, do something like this. However, it's weird that they're doing it with one game just starting, and you might catch that game going into the second quarter, and now the other game starting. I've got my 2 TVs. I won't be affected, but for those of you who are working with one TV, that sucks. You're going to miss one of those games, but that's interesting. And again, those games don't really move the needle for me per se, either one of them, but I don't turn down free football. As we go through the slate, rematch of the NFC Championship game, Rams at 49ers in week 4. Week 5, you get another AFC, another family business affair, Raiders and Chiefs. That should be interesting there, because a lot of people look at the Chiefs now and think they're vulnerable after losing Tyreek Hill and how they had to sweat out winning the division last year. A lot of people think that, these young teams, these young gunners, and then the Broncos adding Russell Wilson, that the Chiefs may not be able to defend what they've been defending for the last 6 years now. It feels like who's won the AFC West other than Kansas City the last 5-6 years? Nobody. This goes all the way back to Alex Smith years. I think he won it 2 times in a row before turning the reins over to Mahomes. Mahomes only knows one thing, and that's winning the AFC West. He's never finished, second in that division. So that'll be a big game, because the Raiders have shown the ability to beat the Chiefs in the past, and they went into Arrowhead and did it a couple of years ago. More family business from the AFC West. This time, Broncos and Chargers. That'll be entertaining football. Just watching that division itself play out is going to be fun over the course of the year. So then we scan the rest of these games. If Watson's playing on Halloween night, that should be entertaining. Burrow versus Watson. That'll be fun. Battle of Ohio. If Watson's playing, which I assume he will be by week 8. As you continue to scan, you take any, let's see. That last game in week 17 that we know of, Bills and Bengals, if those 2 teams are good, which you assume they will be, that should be fun. Week 15, Rams, Packers. I still don't really know about Green Bay. I'm not really too sure about them. Another game that's interesting, December 5th, week 13, Saints at Bucks. That's always fascinating, because for whatever reason, the Saints, they punked the Buccaneers on national television for whatever reason. I can't explain, especially in Tampa Bay. They've embarrassed the Buccaneers more times than I can remember. They just know how to play Brady in particular. But for whatever reason, they don't have any problems going to Tampa Bay on a big stage and just devouring the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that's something to keep your eye on as well. And then, as you can see, they've got a doubleheader slated for week 18, leaving that open for some teams that may be good playing some big games. And then finally, we get to the Thursday night slate, right? This is brand new. So this is Prime Video. So you got to have Amazon Prime to watch these games now. It's only on Prime. Whereas you used to be able to watch this on NFL Network. And then like 3 years ago, they made the switch and conversion because they were losing a lot of viewership because a lot of people did not have NFL Network as a part of their cable package. So they then put it on Fox simultaneously, so you could watch on either network, and that drew in more viewers because everyone's got Fox. If you've got basic cable, you've got Fox. Well, now the NFL is like, to hell with those people who didn't have NFL Network. We got to get this money. And, after a while, you find it a lot tougher to extract money out of places that you've been getting money from. So they up the price on all of the other networks. So you push the price of the pack up from $17.5 to $19.5, which is like, come on, man. And they like, look, it's just price of doing business, man. Inflation. You got to pay the price. You want this brick, you got to pay for it. So Thursday Night Football is now on Amazon Prime. They were one of the highest bidders for that Thursday night package. And so they've got Kirk Herbstreit and Al Michaels doing those games. So that should be a fascinating pairing there. This slate, we heard about this at the draft. The first game on that Prime Video Thursday Night Football slate is going to be Chargers at Chiefs. I'm never turning down Chargers at Chiefs. I don't think I'm turning down anything coming out of that AFC West this year. I mean, all of it up. So that should be fun in week number 1 as we go through the slate of games, or excuse me, that's a week 2 contest there on Thursday night. As we go through these slate of games to see if any of them stick out. I think we'll find out early on in the season how good Indy is, so that week 5 matchup at Denver might be interesting. Let's see. Thursday is always tough. It's usually not a lot of games that you get really excited about. You just got to see how these teams are, because Saints at Cardinals could be really good. Bucks hosting the Ravens could be really good. I mean, these are some bad games, though. Patriots and Bills, AFC East family business. That should be fun. Raiders and Rams might be fun. I don't know how good the Raiders, are going to be. Who wants to see Cowboys, Titans? Who wants to see Jags and Jets? I mean, yuck. Who wants to see Falcons and Panthers other than those 2 fan bases? Like, it's a lot of nasty up here. Washington at Chicago. It's a lot of nasty up here. Let me circle back to Monday night. Washington at Philadelphia. The significance here is Carson Wentz going back to Philadelphia. It's going to be a madhouse in week 10. The game may not live up to the hype of the Carson Wentz going back to Philadelphia, but that's a big effing deal. The Eagles fan base, what's funny is that fan base is torn as to how to feel about Carson Wentz. I've had so many Eagles fans, comment and say, look, you're going to love this dude. This guy can play. He's a baller, man. If you protect him, he's going to do some great things for y'all. And then you got the Eagles fans that are just like pissed off that he didn't work out in Philadelphia. F Carson Wentz. He stinks. He's mentally fragile and weak. And they're going to boo the draws off of him. They're going to talk about his wife and his kids, and he's not going to be able to function in that environment. We're going to see. Hopefully he's healthy and both teams are good. I hope both teams are good in week number 10, and this game means something. That should be a fun game there as well. So now I turn it back over to you guys. I've said all that I need to say. Let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. I think I am right here. I left off at my guy JL Smooth. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. JL Smooth 105.3. JL Smooth with the super chat and doubling up. Really appreciate your generosity. 250 spots. Can't thank you enough for the generosity and the support. My guy JL Smooth writes, being at Salem Field for the Micah Hyde charity softball game and seeing Josh Allen absolutely crush run and go right to the crowd was amazing. Everyone was hugging each other. Seems minuscule, but it was a great moment at a difficult time. Josh Allen is just a lovable dude, and I love the way that Buffalo has embraced him, and he in turn has embraced Buffalo. Remember when his grandmother passed away? And first of all, the Bills fan base may be the classiest in all of the NFL. Every time something happens, the Bills Mafia steps up, and they don't just say it with their words, they say it with their wallets. When tragedy strikes or something happens that they're appreciative of, or they just feel the need. I can't go through all of the things that they've done, but anytime something happens Like when they got into, remember when they got into the playoffs because Andy Dalton and the Bengals, who had nothing to play for, week 17, go to Baltimore. Tyler Boyd makes the catch over the middle of the field and runs in for a touchdown. And they win that game and eliminate Baltimore and give Buffalo their first postseason berth since 1999. And they went and donated and blew it up in Andy Dalton's charity. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of shit Buffalo fans do. When Josh Allen's grandmother passed away, they donated to, the charity for his grandmother. And I'm like, I mean, that's the kind of outpouring of support. Even when it's not their team. Lamar Jackson got injured in a playoff game against Buffalo, and they donated to Lamar Jackson's charity. Like, that's the kind of shit. Like, Buffalo fans are built different. Yep, they're jumping through tables and shit, and you see them dressed up in full La Liga, gear from head to toe. May he rest in peace. But you see all this stuff, and you think about the lost Super Bowls and all of that, but this is a fan base that's so loyal, and they're just good-hearted people. You know what I mean? So I love Buffalo Bills fans. I haven't met one yet that I didn't like. Every single Buffalo Bills fan that I've encountered, I've absolutely loved them. And I just think it's a microcosm of what that fan base is. And you talking about that moment, that embrace, that what that symbolized at that moment after that tragedy that had struck. I think Josh Allen embodies everything that is the Buffalo Bills, similar to the way that Jim Kelly did, 3 decades ago. So I'm not surprised that all kind of just came together the way that it did. Sounds like you had a great time too. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Metaphor. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes. Bold prediction, Carson's year, 40 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 10-10, Terry, dot. Those are some lofty numbers. I can't co-sign on 40 and 9. I can't. He didn't even do that. Now, he was trending in that direction in that MVP caliber year in 17 before he got injured, but I can't co-sign on that. And then Terry's never had, again, I get it, he's never played with a quarterback with the skill set of a Carson Wentz, but Terry's never had more than 7 touchdowns in any given season in his career. Find it hard to believe that, with all the weapons that we have and, with this offense still, having to mature, and I just find it hard to believe that him and Jahan Dotson as a rookie step in 10 apiece for both of those dudes. That's a lofty number, man. No way. I'd love it. I want to be wrong. I hope you're right. But that is bold. That's spicy even. It's a spicy one now. John Perez, my guy, JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, who writes, them Suns were trash yesterday. Luka is the man. They were trash. And one of my best friends is a Phoenix Suns fan, and he was so nonchalant about the series against the Mavericks. And I told him, like, I'm a Grizzlies fan. The Mavericks are in the Southwest Division, which is where the Grizzlies reside. And I told him, I don't want any parts of Dallas because they know us. They play us well. They probably better than any team in the entire Western Conference bracket. The Mavericks know us the best and play us the best. And I didn't want any parts of them. So I was like, I'm glad that we weren't going to. I'd rather go after Golden State. Had we stayed healthy, I think we would have beaten them. But I didn't want any parts of Luka and that Mavericks team. Now, they were not 100%. They didn't have Tim Hardaway Jr., but Luka is such a beast, and he just puts so much pressure on your defense. And if those other guys are hitting, like Spencer Dinwiddie was in Game 7, or Dorian Finney-Smith was in, what was that, Game 4? Like, what are you gonna do when they're doing that, right? So I was shocked though, because they had won every game in Phoenix, and none of them were really close. So I thought they were going to annihilate the Mavericks in Game 7 and keep it pushing. But to see how their biggest stars played in that Game 7, it's a joke. We're going to have me and my buddy going to have a long conversation. I let it air out for a day because nothing's worse than having somebody come and rub it in your face, the day of or the day after. So I let them breathe. I'm going to hit them up tomorrow. I've got a lot of shit to say, though. Luka is the man, though. And I just got his rookie card. So I'm excited about that. I pulled his rookie card out of a mystery pack. So I'm excited about that. Twindy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, LT, where do you think our quarterback 1, 2, 3 room sits in comparison with the rest of the league? So I think Taylor Heineke is one of the better backups in all of football. He's not the best, but he's one of the better backups. I'd say he's a top 7 backup in the league. I feel really confident in his ability to come in and make something happen once he enters the game on some Ryan Fitzpatrick type shit. So I love him. We've got a rookie at 3, so really don't know what to make of that, right? But you're excited at the fact that you have a guy there that, if all else fails, you got a guy that may be able to give it a run to be your future franchise quarterback in Sam Howell. But Wentz is the one that matters most in the upcoming season. And right now, Carson Wentz is a middle of the pack type of quarterback. He's not top half of the league. So he's not 1 through 16. He's somewhere, I think, in that 17 to 21 range. I probably put him somewhere like maybe 19, something like that. If we sat here and we made a list, I think we'd get to Wentz probably like 18, 19, somewhere in there. If we sat down and made a list of the NFL quarterbacks in the league. So when you put that all together, you got a 18, 19-ish number 1, which weighs more than your number 2. So, when you look at this, you're probably looking at it like a scale that your final exam is worth 60% of your grade. Tests and quizzes are worth 30. And then 10% is class participation / homework. So 60% of your grade is going to be QB1. And he's middle of the pack to a little bit further back. Your tests and quizzes is your backup quarterback. I think he's top 10, top 7 in the league. So that helps your grade. But if you're failing your final exam, you're in trouble, So, which we're not failing, but that's a C, and it's 60% of your grade. Your backup quarterback is a B+, and that's 30% of your grade. And then your third string quarterback is a rookie that you're excited about, that you feel like you got great value in. That's an A, but it's only 10% of your grade. So when you put that all together, it's probably B-, C+ range. Probably more so a B-, depending on what that C is. Is that a C? Is that a C+? It's not a C-, Carson Wentz. He's either a C+ or a C-. If you get the B+ and then the A, you're thinking you're in that B-, B range. So I think our quarterback room, with that said, is probably somewhere in that 11 to 15 range, somewhere in there, because even if other teams are only keeping 2 quarterbacks and their number 1 is Josh Allen and their second quarterback stinks, who gives a shit who the second guy is? You got Josh Allen. That's worth, that's a top 5 quarterback in the league, and so it weighs more. So I think we're about 11 to 15, somewhere in there. Donald Gray, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Donald Gray, writes, what's up, Louie? Thanks for the content, man. I appreciate you, Donald. I appreciate all of y'all rocking with me. It's almost 1 o'clock on the East Coast, and it's over 200 of y'all out here rocking with me. So I really do truly appreciate y'all, because again, I've been trying to get to these podcast episodes for the longest. And, like I said, I got hit with the life stick, man. What can you do? Let's see. James Johnson, stand up. You are now the newest member of the MOBB. Y'all know what to do. Show Double J some love. Welcome him with open arms. Truly appreciate you becoming a member of the MOBB. Welcome to the squad, James Johnson. Glad to have you. Let's see. Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Metaphor. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Right. Washington football team, 6 games versus those number 1 and 2 primetime teams schedule. So let's go back. Oh, yeah. That's why our schedule is among the easiest in the league. I had to think about what you were saying. I don't need to go back. Yeah, 6 games. You got the AFC South, which I told you is an unattractive division. So you got 2 teams from that division down at the bottom at 1 in Houston and Jacksonville. You also play Cleveland. So, and that one, that's a misleading game, right? Because if they've got Deshaun Watson into the season, that could be a toughie, right? You've also got Carolina. You don't have Carolina, but you have Atlanta on your schedule. You got Houston on your schedule. So I think I already said Houston, Jacksonville, Houston, Atlanta, and Cleveland. That's 4. Who else? Chicago. Well, they're in the 3 range though. That they probably shouldn't be, but they are. Detroit, they're in the 0 range. You said 1 and 2. They're in the 0 range, but I get where you're going. So that's why the schedule for really the entire NFC East, I don't want to just limit it to Washington and Dallas because the Eagles' schedule isn't that much tougher. Same with the Giants. It's just who takes advantage of the opportunities presented to them. Like the Eagles start off with the Lions in week 1. Yeah, it's on the road, but it's still week 1 at Detroit. They destroyed Detroit in Detroit last year. So they're thinking to themselves, why can't we just do that again? So they have a chance to get off to a 1-0 start there. So you got to take advantage of these opportunities, and it's the team or teams that take advantage of these opportunities, whether home or away. Those are the teams that are going to be in a really good spot in the driver's seat come the end of the season in the NFC East, because it's a very doable schedule for all the teams in the division. John Livingston, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JL Smooth, 105.3. JL Smooth. Really do appreciate you. Who writes, let's get to some football. Sorry, this BS had me heated. No need to apologize. I think it had all of us heated. If it didn't have you heated, then I question you as a human being, because this was senseless, period. Hating someone for the color of their skin is something I will never understand. Amen. And I second that notion. I'll never understand it, because at the end of the day, we're more like each other than we think, But again, a lot of what drives us apart is what's put in front of us over and over again in the media, and there's so many different things that are used as tools to divide us, but it's nor here nor there. He says, anyways, the Bills schedule, the first 7 or 8 weeks is crazy. I'm nervous, Lou. The media keeps gassing us up. Y'all deserve to be gassed up. I mean, y'all are a really good team. You're well coached. You're one of the most complete rosters in all of football. And you've got one of the best quarterbacks in football. You deserve to be gassed up. That said, it's not going to be easy. When you've done what you've done the last 3 years, essentially, going back to the first year you made the playoffs, and then last year, 2 years ago, making it all the way to the AFC Championship game, and then last year being eliminated in one of the best, finishes to a playoff game we've ever seen. You have to expect that it's going to only get tougher. And because you play in the AFC, not the AFC East, you should be able to navigate that, but it's getting a little tougher there. Jets have made improvements. The Patriots aren't going to go away, and the Dolphins have made improvements. That said, the AFC conference as a whole is brutal. And because you win the division every year now, you're getting the best of the best. You're getting Kansas City. You're now getting Cincinnati. You're getting these teams. You're getting Tennessee, and you don't know what the Titans are going to be, but you're getting these teams. You lost to Tennessee last year on the road in a game that you should have won. You're getting the best of the best. You're getting the creme de la creme. And so And then depending on what division you have to play, you probably have the NFC East, or excuse me, NFC West, because I saw the Rams on your schedule. So that means you got the Cardinals, you got the Broncos probably, and the Seahawks. That's brutal. Like the only layup for you there is Seattle. Other than that, the 49ers, that's brutal. Throw your schedule in there with your division. You got to play all the division winners from your conference. And then God forbid that your division has to play the AFC West as well, in addition to the NFC West. Because I think both Wests are the best respective conference divisions in each conference. So if you've got to play both of those, you got a murderer's row schedule. I don't feel bad for you because that's what we had to deal with last year. We won the division. We played the AFC West. We played in the NFC. We played the South, I believe. We didn't play. Yeah, we played Atlanta, Carolina. Yeah, we played in the South, which wasn't bad. You know, they weren't that good of a division, but we played all the division winners from the year previous. So we played Green Bay and we played, you know, those teams, and it made it tough. You know, we had to play Tampa. Everybody in the division had to play Tampa, but it made it tougher. So that's what comes with the territory. You want to win the division, you get the tougher schedule, and then you play in the toughest conference with all these quarterbacks, with all these alpha quarterbacks. So your schedule just is enhanced by the fact that even on, you know, even on a lesser game, if you're playing the AFC West, you got to take on Derek Carr and the Vegas Raiders. Like, that's tough. And that's not even an A-list game for you. That's not the Chiefs. That's not the Chargers. That's the Raiders, but that's still tough. It's not the Broncos. So, yeah, it's brutal, man. I probably will take a look at your schedule because I could only imagine that that's going to be tough. Somebody says, Lou, y'all stink. We'll see about that. Oh man, I love it. Let's see. I'm pretty sure we skipped over something here. Yeah, here we are. My guy JL Smooth, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. 105.3 JL Smooth. My guy John Livingston writes, I don't like getting political as well. Agreed, it makes us divided, but I saw a quote on Twitter that really hit home. You didn't have to tell me he was white. All you needed to say is that he was taken alive. And I think that is as spot on as it gets, is because, you know, that's the thing that we as Black people are always screaming. We just want equality. We just want it equal. Like when I'm watching a basketball game, I don't care if the officials or football game, baseball, it doesn't matter. I don't really care how it's being officiated. Okay. Whether you're calling a tight game and you're blowing a whistle every time there's contact in the NBA or in the NFL, anything down the field, any kind of contact, you're throwing the flag. I don't care if you're doing that as long as you're doing it equally on both sides. That's all I ask, is for equality on both sides. Okay. You can't complain if they're calling it, if the strike zone's high. Okay, fine. You have to adjust as a hitter. The strike zone's high today. He's got a high strike zone. As long as he's calling a high strike for both teams, I got no issues. The problem then comes if he's calling a high strike for one team, but the high strike isn't being called for the other team. That's when shit starts to get a little bit one-sided and you're feeling like, hey, something's going on here. You're watching a football game and everything down the field is ticky-tack and they're calling everything on one team and the other team, they're getting mugged and nothing's being called. Now you're feeling some type of way. Same thing in the NBA. They're getting all the calls. They're going to the cup. They're being aggressive. They've shot 37 free throws and the other team's only shot 16. Something's amiss. And that's how it is in society. And I always talk about sports being a microcosm of life. And that's how Black people feel. That's how I feel, is that it's not equal on both sides. And that's all we've ever fought for. We don't want to be better than anybody else. We just want equality. The Capitol thing blew my mind. The threat of that would have gotten Black people shot in streets. The threat of them breaking into the Capitol. But again, I don't want to go down that road. Anyway, I skipped over that, so I'm glad I was able to go back and get to that comment. Thank you for the super chat, JL Smooth. Let's see. Twin D. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy. Twin D writes. So let me get this straight. W win the division with 7 wins, then get the hardest schedule. Dallas wins the division and gets the easiest schedule. What the hell? So it's just because of who we played that year. It just so happened that when we won the division, that next year I just said we played the AFC West, which is Kansas City, Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos, and we went 1-3 against those teams, and they were tough. We should have beat Denver. They weren't very good, but the Raiders was tough on the road. The Chiefs came in, and so did the Chargers into FedEx, and both left with victories. Those were tough opponents. And again, the thing that stuck out to me with the schedule last year was just the quarterbacks. You knew it was going to be tough because of all the quarterbacks. We were playing of the top 10 quarterbacks. We played like 7 or 8 of them. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts when you're playing that many top tier quarterbacks. Nobody else has ever done that on a schedule before. I mean, Brady, Mahomes, Herbert, Allen, Rodgers. I think I said Mahomes already. If I didn't, Mahomes, Matt Ryan, Dak Prescott twice, Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, like all of these guys, like it's a who's who list of quarterbacks. Like in the top 12 of the NFL in the quarterback position, we played like 7 or 8 of them. Like that's insane. Not to mention, we probably had like the 26th, 27th best quarterback leading our team. So it just wasn't a fair fight. But Dallas isn't dealing with that this year. Everybody in our division has a easy schedule. Dallas's schedule is easy because of who they're playing. And then, the thing that I struggle with is the team that won, the teams that, so they're not being hurt by the teams that won the division. So, for instance, because our division plays the NFC North, right? That negates them having to play Green Bay and us finishing third having to play Chicago, right? Instead, everybody has to play Green Bay. So they don't have that outlier game. Like Tampa Bay, them having to play Tampa Bay is a big difference than us having to play, say, I think Carolina finished third in that division. New Orleans. No, Atlanta finished third in that division. No, it was Carolina. Carolina finished last, actually. Atlanta, New Orleans. Yeah. So Atlanta finished third in that division. So that's who we have this year on the schedule. Atlanta, they have Tampa. But there isn't as big of a gap record-wise between what Tampa finished and what Atlanta finished last year. So the difference isn't all that great, if you get where I'm going. You know what I'm saying? The difference between the Rams as the number 1 team in the NFC West and the third team in the NFC West, which is San Francisco, I think is 1 game. Like 1 or 2 games. So the difference isn't that great. Versus last year when we won the division and we had to play Green Bay. Nobody else in the division had to play Green Bay. We had to play Green Bay. Philadelphia got to play Detroit. Dallas got to play Minnesota. None of those teams were any good, right? The Giants got to play Chicago. We had to play the team that won like 13, 14 games the year previous. Nobody else in that division had won more than probably 7 games. So that makes it a huge disparity. There's not that this year. So if you get where I'm going. And then another thing last year was that was the first year of the 17-game schedule. So we had to play, every team in our division had to play a team in the AFC East where you finished. Same thing. We got Buffalo. Nobody else in that division was any good but Buffalo in 2020. So we got Buffalo. Everybody else in that division stunk. Cowboys had New England, even though the Patriots weren't, terrible in 2021. They weren't good yet. They weren't on a 9-game win streak when they played them. So, it's so forth and so forth. The Eagles got the Jets, the Giants got the Dolphins. Like it's not close. It's not comparable. Whereas this year, the Cowboys have Cincinnati. We got Cleveland. If Deshaun Watson is good, the Browns are every bit as good as Cincinnati. Okay. So it's not that big of a drop off. You see what I'm saying? So that's the difference. Is the teams we played last year, they were clearly head and shoulders above the rest of the division, and nobody else had to play those teams. Anyway, I digress. Thank you for the super chat. Twin D. Got a super chat here from my guy, Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, Big Money Sonny. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, if I'm dreaming, then just let me sleep. Don't wake me up till my dream is complete. He says, what you know about that, Lou? Come on now. I told you I'm an R&B connoisseur. I go all the way back to the 70s, R&B wise. I even dibble and dabble late 60s, but I'm not a 60s dude. 70s and on, come holler at your boy. All right. Anyway, I digress. I should be asking you what you know about that. What you know about that? What you know about that? What you know about that? Hey, I know all about that. I know all about that. Anyway, see where we left off at. Here we go. Malachi Malik, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Malachi Malik writes, I'm here fighting off all the Eagles fans in the chat, Lou. LOL, we better win week 3. That's all I'm saying. No worries. We definitely win in that game. I can't guarantee week 10. When I did my schedule prediction, I gave us a win there. I don't know if this is the thing. And I said this, and this was my rationale. I could be faulty. Okay. I admit this. It could be faulty rationale, but this is my rationale. Eagles and Washington don't split. Either one team gets swept or the other team gets swept. There's no in between. Like with the Giants, there could be a split, and really in the recent years, it's been one team gets swept or the other team gets swept, but you could split with the Giants. You could split with Dallas, even though the Dallas Cowboys usually sweep us. You could split, or we swept them, in 2020. You could split with any other team, but the Eagles and Washington generally don't split. Either you're getting swept or you're doing a sweeping. So if we beat them in week 3, I think we're gonna beat them in week 10. But they're mutually exclusive. One doesn't, mean the other one is going to take place. But we're gonna win in week 3. I'm telling you that right now. We're winning in week 3. Let's see. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Big Money Sonny writes, come on, Lou. Who's better backup than Ultra? There's some other guys in the league. If I sat down, I don't think he's the best backup in football. I'm pretty sure if I sat down and compiled a list of dudes, he'd be up there pretty high. I didn't want to give him too much credit, and because it's easy to just throw out an arbitrary number. I wanted to give some space for him to move up the list. That's why I said top 7. He's no worse than that, though. But if I sat down and made a list, because there aren't many good backup quarterbacks, we can both acknowledge that. There's not a lot of those dudes in the league, but there are some dudes where you're like, hey, if some shit go down, I trust this dude. And so I'm pretty sure I'll be able to at least make a list of 3 or 4 of those dudes in the league before I got to Heineke. I may not. I may get to like the second dude and be like, yo, Heineke better than all the rest of these bastards. But I can't think of any on the top off the top of my head, but I don't know why I'm blanking on his Tyler Huntley for the Ravens last year was outstanding in the absence of Lamar Jackson. And he could be a system QB. He just fits into what they do. You put him in New York, and he might struggle in their offense, or put him anywhere else. But he came in, and I thought he really did some good things and gave them a chance last year. You got veterans like Chad Henne that's been around the block 15 times. That if something happens to Mahomes, that man came in a playoff game and led them to a victory. So I mean, he didn't have to do much, but they were in a dogfight with the Browns, and he had to make some plays in that game, including running on a third down to set up a 4th and short that helped them ice the game. So, it's some guys like that you look at and say, all right, that he's a solid, backup quarterback that you trust. Gardner Minshew is probably another dude you trust. He's kind of in that same Taylor Heineke, mold, but that's another dude you trust as a backup quarterback. So, and I'm pretty sure there are 2 or 3 other dudes that I'm not thinking about right now that could probably be on that list as well. So, yeah. Jacoby Brissett, thank you, Captain Spartan. Jacoby Brissett, clearly one of the dudes you trust. I don't love Jacoby Brissett, but he's one of the best backups in football. I got to give him that. Anyway, I digress. Joe Rockhead J, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Joe Rockhead J, writes, what's good, Lou? What's good with you, Joe Rockhead J? He says, I appreciate these late shows I can still watch after work. I'm still on the wait and see train. The ifs are too colossal. I'm excited to see everything coming, and that's cool. I agree with you. The ifs are huge. I am going to err on the side of giving them the benefit of the doubt. Y'all know sometimes I get on my Pebbles shit and get in my Pebbles bag, and I start giving out the benefit. But I'm gonna give them the benefit because they're the Commanders now. That's the thing that I'm rolling with. I told you, change the narrative. That's gonna be my rally cry for this year. Is change the narrative. So that's what we're looking to do. That's what Carson Wentz is looking to do as a team. That's what we're looking to do as an organization. That's what we're looking to do. Change the narrative. So there's a lot of ifs that have to take place in order to change the narrative. I agree, and I told you that. If my head was turned backwards and I could see forwards. If is the biggest 2-letter word in the English language. I am very aware. If is a heavy word, weighs a ton. However, I'm banking on a lot of these ifs coming to fruition. That's how I help myself sleep at night. So we'll see. But I mean, at least we're in a position where we have hope. It's nothing worse than going into the season without any hope. Like 2019, for instance, there was no hope that year. That's the worst feeling. We got hope. Even if it's misguided and misplaced hope, it's hope nonetheless. I can tell you this, I'm more hopeful than last year. And a lot of y'all were hopeful as hell with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you effing kidding me? With Ryan Fitzpatrick? I feel really good about being hopeful with Carson Wentz. And I could be mistaken. I could be naive. But that's just where I'm at with mine right now. Really appreciate you checking in, man. Thank you for the love and support, Joe Rockhead J. Let's see. Got a super chat here from Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, Metaphor. Writes, if I ever believe my work is done, then I'll start back at 1. Commanders back at 1. Mob. Okay. A little Brian McKnight there. I see you. All right. I'm hoping that the Commanders step up to the plate and take care of business. I feel like the Cowboys, they don't love this division like we do. It should be mine. That's how I see it. You see what I did there? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But at the end of the day, I think we got a shot, man. I like our chances. No one's repeated as division champs. I know the Eagles are saying that's right. That's why we need to take it. Fine. You should feel good about your chances too. But I like my chances. And so I'm over here singing, if you don't mind, I won't waste your time. I'll take this division, man. I'll take it. I'm not looking to waste anybody's time. All right. Anyway, got this super chat here. Lord knows DM. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Lord knows DM writes, how important is a Terry McLaurin extension? It's massive. It's massive on so many different levels. I've talked about the magnitude of what Terry means to this organization. And so the money is going to be huge, but it's well deserved for the role and all the many hats, the various hats that Terry plays in this organization. And one of the most important dynamics in an NFL locker room is seeing guys that have done it the right way, that have done everything the organization has asked of them and did it in a manner that the organization should be using them as an example, seeing those guys get paid. And I don't think people think about that dynamic in a locker room. You know, when you see Jonathan Allen and Terry McLaurin, two pillars of this franchise, doing it the way that you want your leaders on your team doing it, and then you tell them that ain't good enough, you want too much money, you got to go get your money elsewhere. That's problematic for the rest of the guys in the locker room, because they're saying to themselves, well, shit, if Terry did it the best you could possibly do it, and that wasn't good enough to get paid here, well, who the hell is getting paid here? I might as well start packing my shit up right now, because they're not going to pay me what I think I'm worth if they wouldn't pay Terry. So there's a dynamic that you have to keep in place in the locker room. One of those dynamics is, normally if you've got a franchise quarterback, nobody makes more money than the franchise quarterback. You can't have a defensive end or a wide receiver making more than your quarterback. Period. If he's a legit franchise dude. But the next thing in that locker room is the dudes that deserve to be paid, that have done it the right way in your locker room, need to be paid, because you need to send that message to the rest of the players in the locker room that if you do it the right way, you do what we asked you to do, and you do it at a high level, you're going to get broken off here. You're going to get what you deserve here. You don't have to go looking elsewhere for it. And Terry's done everything that we've asked of him and then some. We've given this man no quarterback, no help on the opposite side. He knows he's going to be double and triple teamed every single week, and yet the man goes out and produces each and every single week, because we got to have it. It's not optional. So it's huge. And he's a leader off the field. He's one of the faces of the franchise. He's a guy that you can market around. He's too important to this locker room. So an extension for Terry is massive. You don't want to go into the season with that not getting done and having him potentially going into a franchise tag year. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you have to learn from past mistakes. You did it with Kirk Cousins. You did it with Brandon Sheriff. You cannot allow that to happen here. And it won't. It'll get done in July. That's my guess. All right. Let's see. Malachi Malik, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Malachi writes, why didn't you tell him Cole Turner was a beast? I don't need to tell anybody anything. I want them to find out for themselves. I told you, they have high hopes and big plans for Cole Turner. And I've said this already about Cole Turner. He gives us something that we truly, really haven't had at the tight end position since Jordan Reed. And that's a tight end that you can flex out, detach away from the line, and have him be a threat in one-on-one against a safety or linebacker. Hell, even a corner, because the guy has wide receiver skills, being an ex-wide receiver. So the league is kind of trending towards having that athletically gifted tight end flex out and detach from the line and be a U or out wide as an X in certain instances. You get that one-on-one matchup. You see you got man-to-man, and you're like, oh, I'm about to eat this safety alive. Got my guy out there one-on-one. I'm about to cook his ass. We haven't been able to do that because Logan Thomas isn't cooking anybody out detached from the line. Vernon Davis wasn't really cooking anybody. You know, like I said, Vernon was a great straight line speed guy, but his agility was was not great at the end of his career. And so we haven't had that guy here in Washington. We've been searching. Well, the search may be over after, finding Cole Turner. So we'll see what happens. Oh, I see somebody caught that one. Condo P. I see you. Yeah, you definitely on your game. All right. Let's see. Got a super chat here from Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Metaphor writes, Commanders, I've been watching you for so very long. I like it. I like it a lot. So I was thinking one day, I said I wanted to do like a R&B show, but that's not for everybody. You know what I'm saying? That's not for everybody, but that's something that if I did something like that, it'll probably be on like social media, like IG or something like that. I'll go live and do it on IG, something like that. But I probably wouldn't do it on the channel because not everybody is with that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want people like, what the hell is this? That's not why I sub to this channel. Random R&B video. You know what I'm saying? Podcast, all bets are off. I do anything I want on the podcast, but I would probably want to play some of the music, and some of that stuff. You can't do that on YouTube, obviously. You can, but you won't get any residual from that. So I'll probably do something like that on IG, live, whatever. Anyway, I digress. So let's get to the final segment of the show and garbage time. So I know y'all seen some of this money that's been dished out here recently at the cornerback position. So a couple of weeks ago, we never got a chance to talk about this, but quietly the Browns made cornerback Denzel Ward the highest paid corner in all of football, APY, $30.1 million per year. Now, the previous highest was Jalen Ramsey at 30 per, right? And then Denzel Ward tops. I mean, football players are petty. And really it's like that in any sport, but football in particular, because guy got to be the highest paid. So remember Trent Williams ended up beating I think it was David Bakhtiari by like $200,000 or something. It was something really, petty just to be the number one, highest paid tackle APY in the league. Or I think it was aggregate for that one, but APY is average per year. So you hear me say APY, that's what I'm talking about. So, and we know these numbers are inflated. They won't get to the last year of the deal, yada, yada, yada. But that's still what we look at. That's still the barometers. How much money are you making APY? So Denzel Ward gets the deal a week and a half ago or so, and he's above Jalen Ramsey by $100,000, right? You're like, okay, that's or excuse me, by yeah, I said that right, $100,000 because it was 30.1, and Ramsey was at 30, right? So then Jair Alexander shows up and he gets his deal and he tops everyone. I think his deal, if I'm not mistaken, it's like 34 APY or something like that. Now this is a guy that missed a huge chunk of the season this past year, but before that, he was one of the best in the game. So they locked their guy up, and see these corners out here getting broken off, man. I mean, the money's going up, and we've talked about the positions, and clearly quarterback is number one. But after quarterback, there's a real debate to be had about what's the next most important position. Is it left tackle? Is it corner? Or is it edge rusher? Those are the only positions in the conversation. You could argue it's left tackle. Got to protect that, prized commodity. You invested all this money. That's the investment. You got to protect your investment. So you could argue left tackle, right? And really, it's not just left tackle anymore. It's both your tackles, because it's not like 1992 where a guy was left defensive end and the other guy's right defensive end. Nah, these dudes are moving around now. If I got a mismatch, if I got TJ Watt, he might rush better from the left side, but guess what? Your left tackle is garbage. You had a third string left tackle. I'm putting TJ Watt on his ass. I'm about to take advantage of this opportunity. You can't hide anymore. You used to hide your lesser of the two tackles on the right side. Can't do that no more. They'll find the weakness and exploit it. So tackle in general has to be, both taken care of. But there's this debate out there. The analytics crowd, they love the cornerbacks before edge rusher. I'm old school eye test guy. I still think that a pass rush impacts a quarterback more than anything else. But we all know, secondary and pass rush go hand in hand. You got good pass rush that allows corners to be more aggressive so that the quick game isn't as effective. But if you're not hitting home, I can't be super aggressive because that quarterback's got all day to throw. Now I'm trying to be aggressive and I get hit with a double move and I'm giving up an 80-yard, strike. So it goes hand in hand. If you got both, you're in great position to be a dominant defense. If you got one over the other, which would you prefer? The argument that the analytics crowd has is that, look, you can't take a corner, a elite corner, you can't take him out of the game. Can't do it. I can take my elite corner and put him wherever you line up your best wide receiver and take that guy out of the game or minimize his impact. Whereas an elite edge rusher, there are so many different ways I can take that guy out of the game. Quick passing game, I can chip, I can double, I can triple. But as we've seen with TJ Watt and Aaron Donald and guys like that, it don't matter how many dudes you put on them. If they see a little bit of daylight, they're going to get in there or they're going to force a holding penalty or something like that. They're going to impact the game. Yeah, TJ Watt was breaking through double and triple teams all last season to get to the quarterback. Aaron Donald does it on a regular basis. So, when you're at that level, you're elite and you're at that level, you force the defense to have to, offense, to change how they do things and how they want to, deploy their players. You might have to keep that tight end. You really want that tight end to get out there and get in the route, but he got to stay in and double team or at least chip. Takes him a little bit longer to get into his route. Same with the running back. Sean McVay used to always say, you want 100% of your eligibles out if at all possible. You don't want 80% of your eligibles out, meaning your back or your tight end had to stay in. But a home wrecker, a game wrecker, as a pass rusher will do that to your offense. But, the debate rages on and the analytics crowd swears by the corner. And it's hard to say that they're wrong, but I just know what a dominant pass rush will do, So they go hand in hand, and it's just funny to see all of these corners getting broken off. But, the money's going up. The receivers are now hitting 30. APY. Corners are, Jalen Ramsey was the first corner to hit 30 APY. And you see where this is trending, man. You see where this is trending for, all of these positions. So anyway, I digress. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me on this super late but still great LouieTeeNetwork podcast. Episode 259 is about to be in the books. Try to get back to some semblance of a normal schedule, but I can't confirm nor deny anything. But what I will say is that I will have at least another podcast this week. I'm going to try to shoot for 2, but there are no guarantees. I told you, the life stick is hitting hard over on these parts. So I can't guarantee anything other than I will see you guys on Thursday for sure for the Command Post live. But with that said, I am going to glide to the side and allow you to get back to whatever it was you were doing before I rudely interrupted your proceedings this evening. You know what it is. Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys take care. God bless and good night. Louie T.